everybody. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public session order. Can I have a motion for public session?
Motion.
All in favor?
Yes.
We are going to go right into superintendent's report.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for all coming. It's nice to see such a crowded space. Sorry we don't have enough chairs, I apologize, but we have a couple announcements that I would like to go through. One is right now, as we speak, we have our girls volleyball team, our varsity girls volleyball team at the high school, playing the championship game against Southampton. Right, so you know, they started at 6:30. We did win the first set. So I have one of the parents actually texted me live. So the first set we didn't win, which is great. The boys soccer team last night unfortunately had a loss. We did play against Babylon. It was a very tight game. I attended it. We lost 2-1, but the boys played extremely well. They presented themselves well, and they represented the Center Ridge School District in a very positive way. And so did the coaching staff. So I commend their efforts, and I think they had a great season, especially considering the fact that they had a brand new coach and Michael. So congratulations to our boys soccer team. Boys football team is playing against Elwood on Saturday at 1 p.m. at Elwood High School. So for those of you who can make it, please go show your support for our kids. And the first thing we would like to do, we have a proclamation to a second grade student from Mrs. Mangelotti's class. Oh yes, I apologize. One other thing. We had the girls cross country team actually win the Class C championship today. So congratulations to them. So if we could have Jack come on up, Jack Hughes. So I was going to ask him to read this proclamation, but I thought that maybe that would be a good thing, so I'm going to read it for John. So the proclamation from the Center Ridge Junior Free School District, Board of Education, whereas Jack Hughes, a bright and compassionate second grader from Mrs. Malgelai's class, has brought honor to our school district. Whereas, inspired by a simple video, Jack undertook a personal mission to collect and redeem recyclable cans and bottles to benefit the town of Brookhaven Animal Shelter. Whereas, through his unwavering determination and support of his family and community, Jack's recycling project has grown beyond expectations, demonstrating the power of individual action. Whereas Jack's commitment to environmental sustainability and animal welfare serves as an inspiration to students and staff. Now, whereas the Center Ridge School District Board of Education does hereby recognize Jack Hughes for his outstanding achievement and community service, we commend his initiative, perseverance, and compassion. May Jack's example inspire future generations of Center Ridge students to make a positive impact on the world. Congratulations. Yes. Very good. So, for those of you who do not know, there was a News 12 article actually about, there was a segment about Jack and some of the work he did in Center Ridge, which is what inspired us to provide Jack with a proclamation and acknowledge him at a board meeting. So we're very proud of you, Jack, and you did a great job. You want to say anything? No? Okay. All right. right, a couple more minor things before we move into a presentation that we have scheduled, or two presentations we have scheduled for tonight. One is that I just want to take a moment to commend our colleagues throughout the entire district. Yesterday we had a staff conference. And that is the day that generally as a staff, we come together to celebrate something we're doing, we come together for professional development. What we decided to do this year is that we put it out to our staff, in terms of teachers and professionals, to create their own professional learning opportunities. So they created workshops that they designed and that they facilitated themselves. We had about 11 workshops that we ran yesterday in the afternoon, or teacher generated, or teacher facilitated. And from what we've received, it's been a really great success. One was on AI tools in the classroom. Another one was on finding ways to find your own internal peace and deal with stress and manage stress. Another one was on organizational skills that you can incorporate in your classroom to increase student productivity. So I do want to commend the 15 staff members that were courageous enough to come up and design something and present it on the board. So thank you, everyone. The other thing that we have is we wanted to provide a guidance report. So our guidance counselors at the secondary complex, they've been working extremely hard over the last few months. I think the community knows that on October 16th, we did put a guidance chairperson in place to add another layer of support, who is working directly with our middle school assistant principal, who is overseeing guidance with the assistance of our secondary principal and AP, Ms. Magonia, and Ms. Foreman. And we're trying to really increase some of the productivity and some of the contact time that they have with students. So some of the things they've done for the last month is they are conducting, or they have conducted, classroom push-ins concerning the college search process. They had a college application night, which was October 1st. They also were working hard to meet the November 1st deadlines. A lot of colleges have a November 1st college deadline where the applications have to be in. And the application process is kind of strenuous, where teachers, where you have to get letters of recommendation, you have to fill out a lot of forms to get approved. And at the SUNY level, that was free. It was free until November 1st, so we worked a lot with our high school students to ensure that as many of them that were interested in going to SUNY, or even exploring the possibilities of a SUNY college, apply. So our guidance counselors worked really closely with them. They met with their students, they met with their parents, to kind of talk about the options in terms of post-secondary endeavors. On the 29th of October, we had a college fair that we had probably about 120 different universities and colleges representing their institutions and talking to kids, giving them valuable information as to what the college had to offer in terms of programs, in terms of life, in terms of different activities that they have within the college. So I think that was open to all grades, 9 to 12, pleasure. So that was a good day, I think. And we're part of a consortium of the ESEN, that all ESEN high schools, they join and they have the same college representatives come out to the same different fairs that we have. And the last thing, they are part of one of the largest forums for school counselors, where they do fill out a form to ensure that other school counselors around the region have the same information, they're exposed to the same opportunities that we can provide to our students as well as our parents. Right, so now I believe we're going to now move over to the middle school presentation, which I believe most of you are here.
Yes.
So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Reggio and Mr. Long.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Soto, and thank you all for coming tonight. I just want to start by thanking all the parents and guardians of our students. These are all of our amazing middle school students here in the audience, and it brings me so much joy to look out and see how many students came tonight and how many families came tonight. So I just want to start by thanking you. I know it's not easy to come on a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, but you being here to represent middle school means so much to all of us. We really have had such a great start to the middle school this year. We have pretty amazing grades. The staff members and Ms. Olmsted and I keep saying how the 3 cohorts of students that we have in the school right now together is such a fantastic mix, and really we're very blessed to be with your children every day. So thank you for being here. And I also just want to say that tonight with with me are some of our amazing middle school teachers. So we're going to be talking about interdisciplinary instruction at the middle school. And as the principal, when I emailed the staff and said, hey, I want to talk to the board about interdisciplinary instruction, what we're doing at the middle school, is anyone interested in sharing what they're doing in 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade? By the end of that day, really by the end of that hour, I had Mrs. Mulcher like, I'll share what we're doing in 6th grade. Miss Ellen, Mr. Windsor like, I'm there for 7th grade. And Mrs. Harrison said, I'll be there for 8th grade. So they really are, they love their children and they also love their craft. And so we're very blessed and excited to have so many eager staff members excited to come share what we're doing at the middle school. So without further ado, so tonight we're going to be, the name of our presentation tonight is A Peek into a Middle School Classroom. So what we usually do when we come to the board is we have like a large scale award or our MYP community project or something really big that we're coming to present. And this year, our theme is A Peek into a Middle School Classroom, and the idea came from a series that we started on our Instagram. So if you're not following the middle school Instagram, I'm going to show you in here tonight. And throughout the whole school year, we're going to have videos of A Peek into a Middle School Classroom. So as a mom, I know when I go on my son's page and I just see him like sitting at his desk, I love it. It doesn't have to be like the big award. So it kind of inspired me to just showcase a little bit more of the everyday in our schools and in our classrooms. So that was kind of like the inspiration for our presentation. I'm not going to show all of them, but it will kind of just show you.
Yeah, sure. It's a.
Alright, so you get the idea. That was 7th grade science. So we're going to be continuing that series for the middle school throughout the year, just showcasing the everyday kind of peek into the middle school classroom. So tonight, we thought we'd bring you a peek of interdisciplinary instruction at the middle school. So what's so great is that you didn't have to like look far or make this interdisciplinary instruction happen to come here. These are 3 things that are happening currently at the middle school across all 3 grade levels. So before we jump into the kids and the teachers, Mr. Waltron is just going to share quickly what is interdisciplinary study.
Good evening, everybody. So just real quick, when we talk about interdisciplinary study, we're really just talking about looking at some of the skills and processes that we want to learn across content areas. The big thing with that is that this learning kind of goes beyond the classroom as it kind of challenges students to use their own critical thinking skills. And it's really a student-centered approach because students are engaging in inquiry. They're asking questions and they get an opportunity to explore and answer those questions that they're asking. And it really, what's really great about it is that they develop problem-solving skills because they're looking across content areas at things that work across disciplines. What are some of the common themes and connections in my learning, and how can I apply that into a tangible or a real life scenario across just in my math class or just in my science class. Go ahead to the next slide. And just kind of going through it pretty quick, it ties really in with our middle years program in that just students being critical thinkers and inquiry and that all ties into IB and our middle years program because it gives students an opportunity to combine the knowledge that they learn in one content area with the knowledge that they gain in other content areas and really take that across discipline. And one thing we've been promoting in our schools is teacher collaboration, and you'll see a little bit of that today, where we're getting teachers whether it's our English or our language and literature, working with our math teachers, we're seeing a lot of collaboration, and we're encouraging that. You're going to see some of our teachers come up today. But I don't want to spend too much time with that because I really want to give them an opportunity and the students an opportunity to show you guys what they can do.
All right, so tonight we're just going to show you a snapshot across each of the 3 grade levels. So we have 6th grade. Mrs. Folger is going to show about the teacher sneaker design project, 7th grade, the Lost Colony, and 8th grade, culture and community. So we're going to start with 6th grade. Come on up, 6th graders.
One of my lovely. So I'm really blessed that I have one of the most amazing groups of students this year. We are working on what Dr. Andrew just talked about. It's a sneaker design project. So this project I've been doing for years. Last year it was our No Place for Hate project that we did, and it was so successful. Dr. Soto remembers this from last year. So basically what we do is we take a design project and we have to create a shoe for a client. So the students have to pick a client to design a shoe for. They do it independently at first, using the research skills that they're learning in other classes, along with our librarian and things like that. They do their own research, they use some of their art skills and some of their design skills independently, and then they come together in groups, and then they have to hash it out of who has a better client and who will make a better design. So instead of just putting them in a group and saying, go ahead and do this, with them all staring at each other going like, I don't know what to do, I don't have anything, they come with all this amazing work that they've already done, and so that makes it a really successful project. So they create a sales model, they do a sales pitch to the upper level grades. They're actually going to push in to social studies in 8th grade and an English class in 7th grade. And those students are going to do their own research on these students' clients so that they can work as their agents. And so the big kids are going to be sitting here listening to this presentation, and these guys have got to sell that shoe to those clients. So it's really great. And it teaches 6th graders that they have a lot to teach kids that are older than them. And I think when you're in 6th grade, sometimes you think like the older kids know more than you, and that can be true, but not always. So it gives them a good voice, it gives them an experience to talk in front of a room, which they're going to do right now. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but you can see this is last year's project. They're in the midst of doing this now. And some of them have some drawings. I'm going to have them show those to you. But some of the things they do are research, collaboration. They're putting their color theory skills together with this. Design, they've got to do that sales pitch. There's a lot of business. There's a lot of Google Slides. We talk about branding, and we talk about the power of color and logos and slogans and presentation skills. They also get to vote on the best shoe of the grade. So we talk about voting and how that's independent and private. They get to do that. And then they put it together in a 3D model. So you can see in the middle there, those are our top 3 winners last year. It's actually a cardstock sneaker that is 3-dimensional. It looks just like a high top. And it starts just with cardstock. And these guys have got to use scissor skills and hot glue, and they have jobs to make sure that it's assembled properly, and it's really great. They get 1 try. So it's a competition after all. So they get 1 cardstock flat model that they have to design, color, cut, and glue together. And if they make a mistake, they've got to figure it out because they don't get another one. So my first group, after I do the next slide. So my first group, go back one. So all right, so this group is called the RBGs. They selected Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Hold up your designs there for everybody. All right, so they each did independent designs, and then they're coming up with their own collective design, which will be a 3D model. During the design process, they taught me that Ruth wore this kind of collar, and she was famous for it on her robes. She's a Supreme Court justice. And so I want them to tell me, because I don't know yet, why they use the colors that they use along with that collar. So I know about the collar, but what's about the color? Can you talk?
So when we were doing our research about her, we found that her favorite colors were yellow and blue. So we thought we would put the shoe more on yellow and blue. Also, they're more complementary to each other, so it goes good on the shoe.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we wanted to incorporate like her 2 favorite repeat colors to design our shoes to try to sell this way.
Nice. Actually, want to add anything to that about anything with the design or the colors that you chose? Oh, so because you weren't sure exactly what shade of blue, so you did
Did
multiple.
multiple and
Okay, I understand. All right, well, excellent job. I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's all finished, and I'll definitely put a picture up so we can see it. Thank you so much. My next group is Sneakers for All, and their client is Rosa Parks. You guys want to show some of yours? So this is a piece of the actual shoe that is going to eventually be three-dimensional, and we have some original artwork. They were nervous about these little swatches here, but we're testing colors to see what looks good together, and so we know that that's an important part of the design process. All right, so can you share with us, you guys? I see a lot of roses on this shoe. Can you maybe share with us some of the design reasons for featuring roses?
Because Rosa Parks name has a rose in it, we decided to add a rose on the shoe.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's kind of a literal thing.
we chose to do rose because Rosa Parks blossoms like a civil rights activist.
Okay, very great. Ellie, want to add anything? What about the colors? I'm seeing a lot of this like plum purple.
Yeah. Rosa Parks favorite color is purple.
Her favorite color is purple. Nice. Does anybody want to add anything else about Rosa Parks? Go ahead.
So we put all those roses on our shoe because Rosa Parks is happily moving it and training.
Okay, beautiful rose, beautiful person. Got it. Anything else? All right, nice job. Okay, my final group right here, their client, and this name, I don't know how to pronounce the name of your group. I know it's your last name, your initials to your last names. We'll figure that part out. I know it's a work in progress. Their client is Frida Kahlo, and their, I can only, I didn't want to like keep it forever. So their slideshow is very colorful. And the question I have for you, because as you guys, when they were talking about this, I said, ooh, she's my favorite artist. Mrs. Harrison's too. So I'm very excited. So my question's a little harder for you guys, all right? And my question is, if Frida was here today, what do you think her favorite parts of your design would be?
So we did a lot of research about her and so we decided to see what colors and uses in her paintings. And after we narrowed it down to colors and uses was often to create.
Nice, Robert.
We use a lot of like a lot of red and like green, like darker colors like red, green, and blue to express like blood and stuff.
Okay.
And we made
Yeah, show the group.
a paintbrush all in one, but then because that was what she was known for after she died.
Yeah, she was an amazing painter, yes. And I learned from the majority of the they taught me again, that she was in a bad bus accident and she had sustained lifelong injuries. And she painted her pain, and that's when Robert's talking about blood. It wasn't really thought to be very beautiful, but her paintings are beautiful and she was expressing herself through them. So anything else to add? Also, all the colors had meaning. Nice job, guys. Anything else? Amazing job. Again, so you can see they're really talented young people. They're learning a lot. And again, we're doing this sneaker project with the No Place for Hate theme. So they had to pick someone alive or dead from our world that did something amazing or had ties to that theme. And they all chose their own clients to research, and it's really, I've learned a lot from them. So great job, guys.
All right, thank you, sixth graders, seventh graders. We have Mrs. Leskowitz and Mr. Winslow.
So the project that we started with this year, at the beginning of the year, it actually was phenomenal because it fit perfectly with my curriculum in social studies and my first unit, which was colonization of the Americas. So I had my students do research and develop and create a book on the computer, which is through Book Creator. It ended up being phenomenal. because I gave the kids free rein to, be creative and do the research. So most of them, in the beginning of their book, they added all the information about research on the theory of what happens to the lost colony of Roanoke. And then it was up to them to decide how they were going to present it. And most of them did it in a story, and they did each one pretty unique. The first one was Alex. And with each of them too, most of them added a audio component. So after they completed the book or throughout the book, like Alex actually read the book, and if you played each page, you could listen to it. His was a story. Alex, want to talk about it?
Well, I think that researching the same thing in English and both in social studies really make both projects really easy to create. And using the same research for two different things really was something new for me, and I think surprised me how it really worked out.
Awesome. And that was the thing with this project, is that I feel like it really kept them engaged. In starting the school year, coming off summer, it's kind of hard to get the kids into, being focused on everything. And it seemed like, since they were working on it both in English and in social studies, that they were constantly coming up with new ideas and questions and working with each other and collaborating with each other, which you can see when you see, what they produced. They did phenomenal work. The second book was CJ, and just a little something about CJ. CJ is extremely focused when he's in school and working and developing what he's going to create, and his research is phenomenal. In the beginning of his book, he laid out all the theories in detail of what could have happened to the lost colony of Roanoke, and then he wrote a beautiful story. You want to talk about it?
My topic is about the lost colony of Roanoke, and my theory was that the lost colony relocated. And we were doing research in English, and I used the research from English to create my story for my book review. I picked the best ones for making the story. That's one.
Awesome. Yeah, and his was absolutely phenomenal. They all were. Some of the kids, though, really went above and beyond. This one, Jubilee, I believe, absolutely went above and beyond. Because not only did she lay out her theory and explain what possibly could have happened to the lost colony, she did the story in a diary form, which, if you read it, you would think, a high school student wrote it. It was absolutely amazing. And also, she narrated it. I think, did you do it with one of your friends? Oh, you did it all by yourself. Okay. You want to share it?
Hello, my name is Jubilee. I'm first to say I'm honored to be up here talking about my story. My story is about a girl named Colony Roanoke who comes back not only to find a real colonist, her husband and daughter missing, with real historical components. I chose to do a diary form because I realized nobody was really doing that. I always have loved to storytell and the subject history, so I decided for this project to match too.
Great, awesome. And then the last one, which was unique in itself also, was Alexa. And what I love most about her book is at the end, her and a friend did a narration of, well, I'm not even going to tell you, I'm just going to share it with you. So, and also the way she started her book is she used all the elements of the story and then color-coded it, which made it unique, especially from me as a teacher, from my perspective, to read it and know that she was hitting each one of those specific things in the color bank. But when you listen to her story, it's amazing. And actually acted it out.
I'll play a few seconds of it.
Hello, everybody. Today is currently the year 1648, and I am here with Melody Crouton, and she is one of the 15 survivors of the lost colony Roanoke who stayed at the island of Letters relocated. Now, Melody, why don't you say hi to the camera? Hello, everybody. Okay, let me ask you a series of questions today about what?
Alexa, do you want to talk about your book?
Yeah. One of the things I made sure I included in my book was that I had all of the parts of the story about the lost colony of Roanoke.
I used the whole story structure to make sure that people reading it would understand what we are learning. As you can see on the screen, the color-coded each section of the story. Overall, this was a really fun experience, and I enjoyed making this, and I hope you like my book creative.
Awesome. Good job.
So, for those of you that I have not yet met, my name is Ali Lashevich. I am the 7th grade language and literature teacher and honored to have this group of students this year. Truly is a phenomenal group across the board. It really is, as Dr. Reggie has said, such a nice feeling in the building, the cohort that we have are interested and engaged. And so this particular project, for those of you that may not be familiar, Lost Colony of Roanoke was one of the original colonies settled really where the colonists disappeared was from Roanoke Island in North Carolina. Over 100 people there living in a colony, and when John White came back to bring further supplies, they were gone. One clue, and there have been today still debates occurring. People may have heard of the Dare Stones, but for English and social studies, an interdisciplinary lesson, it's a beautiful thing because I am working on teaching our students ways of building their skill sets. So their reading skills, close reading strategy, research, their ability to be able to analyze and sort information and then present it in a myriad of different ways. So we in English took on the argument paper and made it a research-based argument where you just saw the creativity that they were able to use and bring history alive as stories in social studies. So using that content, we were able to really delve into all of the different skill sets that the kids possess. So in addition to both creator and social studies, the second one, if you would. Thank you. The research-based papers, this is one that started out, unfortunately, you're always not able to be with us this evening, but this one, he starts out by saying, you may have heard that Jamestown was the first English colony in the Americas, perhaps in your history class in school. But what if I told you this was wrong? And he goes on to incorporate all of the research. And then our second, the other paper. Thank you. Maya is able to be here with us this evening, and again, taking the same content that was done as a story and now presenting it as an argument-based research paper. Why don't you talk to them about what you do?
Hello, my name is Laya. This is my paper. We learn all about how to research and make an argument essay. I loved learning all about the lost colony of Roanoke. I really enjoyed working on this project in 2 different classroom settings. It allowed me to look at the subject in multi-dimensions. It was so fun choosing what theory I wanted to choose, and I loved learning about it. I hope you learned.
Thank you. And it was truly phenomenally well done because there are so many theories, and at this point, experts are still debating. So having the student choice and really have the ability to narrow down what they felt from 14 or 15 different possible theories and really narrow in and choose and sort out the research. And the fact that you guys were able to do that with your books and your essays is very impressive. We ended the unit by doing something which is a reflection and asking them to look back on the process, being in 2 classes, doing research using the same material for a story, as well as argument-based paper, and what they felt they learned, what worked for them. So we have 2 reflections. I believe Jana is yours first. Yes, so Jana.
This unit was very interactive. I wasn't used to reflections, and I'm very happy that I got this opportunity to learn how to research. This will not only help me in middle school, but for the rest of my education process. Thank you to Ms. Ella and Mr. Winslow for teaching me these extremely valuable research skills and writing skills.
Thank you. Thank you. And then we have Charlotte.
My name is Charlotte Amato, and I did interdisciplinary learning.
I was able to use my research skills for both subjects. This helped me with each project, even though they were very different. Reflections in general helped me improve on further life.
Thank you. And really, I think what the kids are saying is what we are hoping for them, that they can delve into overwhelming amounts of information with massive projects in front of them and sort it out into smaller components and figure out the pieces and really analyze and assess for themselves what is useful information, what can I use, how is this going to help my goal, and then reflect on what worked and what did not work, because as we all know, we're always learning. So I congratulate you all. Thank you so much. You've done a phenomenal job.
Thank you, 7th graders, and last but not least, our 8th graders are gonna come up and share what they're doing interdisciplinary in the classroom with Mrs. Harrison.
So I write things down, I'm not as off the cuff as these guys are over here. But to begin this unit, our 8th grade students dove into the rich world of Hispanic cuisine, discovering the unique flavors and ingredients that make these dishes special. They also practiced Spanish by sharing their thoughts and feelings about food, what they love, what's new to them, as well as what surprised them. Through a mini-series on YouTube, they were virtually welcomed into a traditional Mexican kitchen, seeing firsthand the art of home-style cooking and learning how food reflects family and traditions. With the support of the 8th grade team and administration, the highlight of our unit was our interdisciplinary, it's a mouthful, field trip day. On this day, students explored how Hispanic culture weaves into math, science, social studies, and ELA, and students experienced firsthand that culture, like a fabric, holds us together, with food as one of the common threads we share. I am so proud of each of them for embracing this journey and sharing their reflections with us tonight. And a heartfelt thank you to the Escobar family for graciously sharing their beautiful niece with me and their traditions, allowing us all a taste of their culture and what it means to be a community. Thank you. So we went across all modalities. First, we had some math, and students got to do some exercises with Mr. Shower doing the Mayan math number system. Next, we got to dive into ELA, and students had the opportunity to explore poetry by Hispanic artists and create their own. That's okay. Then we got into science. Science students had the opportunity to learn about deforestation and its impact on Spanish-speaking countries in South America, and they created beautiful call to action posters to help save the Amazon in those regions. Then we got into, then we finally got into civil action in social studies. Students had the opportunity to learn about civil rights activist Cesar Chavez and discuss human rights and activism and what it means to them and in their community. Then we got to go to La Fuente de Vida, courtesy of the Escobar family, and the girls are going to share their experiences with you. Oh, why I chose them, by the way. Each of these girls in front of you, they were in the kitchen, they were handing out napkins, they were helping serve things, and they just really got into the whole theme of the day and really embraced being there for each other. Ashley takes it personally, it's her family, but her friends took it personally because she did. It was a beautiful thing to witness, and I was so proud of them. Girls, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming here tonight. I really feel like this mission got to spread out and show off the Hispanic culture to people who didn't reach about it. It really made me and my family happy to be giving our food and showing our culture to people who want to learn about it. It was really exciting and interesting going around to different classrooms and learning facts and creativity in Hispanic culture. I really hope to have more opportunities like this in the future. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to start off by saying thank you for being here tonight. For this activity, I really love the opportunity to focus on Hispanic culture. I really appreciated being able to go class by class learning about Hispanic culture in each class subject, math, English, science, and social studies. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This field trip was a great show of Hispanic culture because each class we got to learn about different languages and subjects. I feel it's important because it gives every student the opportunity to learn about Hispanic culture. It is a pleasure to be here tonight with everyone. The field trip was a great experience. I got to spend with my peers and try other cultures' foods, as well as sharing a room with a bunch of cultures combined between each person in that room. It was a really fun experience. Thank you for making it possible for us.
Hello. Hello, everyone. It's exciting for everyone to be here. I want to thank you for making us happen, having many people experience what we do, and learn about many other Hispanic countries, and enjoy the future. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
So we just wanted to conclude by thanking the Board of Education for giving us the opportunity to come here and share a little peek into the middle school classrooms and how interdisciplinary learning is happening so far this fall at Santa Maria Middle School. And thank you to all of our students who were excited to come and share, and a special thank you to the staff members for all that you do in the classrooms every day. And we look forward to kind of continuing to share snapshots with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, we do have another presentation for those of you who obviously have to go to school tomorrow, and work. We'll give you a few minutes to review
Thank you so much. This was a great opportunity.
All right, good evening, everyone. It seems like the room kind of cleared out very quickly. And we have a few members of the audience still. So this evening, we're going to have a discussion regarding the New York State Education Department's plan for regionalization. Some of you, especially those of you who work in education, you may have heard about this. This is something that's kind of new in the field. It came out, I want to say, a couple months ago. So the idea of today's presentation is to give the audience, to give the community, as well as the Board of Education, an understanding, and I think a lot of the board members do have a good understanding of it, but looking at it from the perspective of what does it mean for education, how was it developed, what is its purpose, the timeline, and the possible implications of this plan. So regionalization plan is part of the Board of Regents. They adopted an emergency regulation regarding regionalization on September 9th, 2024. And this presentation will be available on our website for those of you who really want to dive into the idea of regionalization and what it means to the region, what it means to Long Island, what it means to the state as a whole, because this is going to impact the entire New York State. So there is a link here to the New York State Register, which is the weekly bulletin that the state produces that provides information regarding possible new regulations that may be coming out from the New York State Education Department. So there is a link to that. It was published on October 23rd. That really gives the language or the proposed language of the regulation that was adopted by the Board of Regents on September 9th. It is going to be added parts to 124 of the Provisions Regulations. There's two sections of it that add specific language to it that provides regulatory guidance as to how districts are to implement it, and we're going to review that in a moment. So, according to the regulations itself, the goal of regionalization is to increase opportunities for students, build upon the existing strengths and capacity in communities across New York, address enrollment challenges, Because one of these things that they're looking at, let me just stop there for a second, is that we have seen a decline in enrollment across Nassau and Suffolk County, upwards to almost 4%. Even in Seven Bridges, over the last 10 years, we've lost about 200 students. We, 10 years ago, our enrollment from K to 12 were roughly about 1685. We're now at about 1489. So we've lost about 200 students in the last 10 years. And a lot of districts are facing the same thing. And manage fiscal constraints by fostering equitable education environments through regional collaboration. This is the piece that I see your face. This is the piece that I think a lot of people are concerned about. And this is one of the reasons why this is a topic that has reached a lot of attention within Long Island. So I'm not going to go into every aspect of this, but there are three major things that I think you have to understand when you're looking at the regionalization plan developed by the state, which are the definitions outlined within the plan itself. So it says regionalization means the process of creating equitable education opportunities for all students through collaborative partnerships. The regionalization plan means a strategic plan for a supervisory district. So supervisory districts, there are 37 across New York State. Our supervisory district is East and Suffolk Coast. It collaborates and sort of works in unison with the collaborative districts within East and Suffolk Coast. There's Western Suffolk Coast and there's Nassau Suffolk Coast within Long Island. But outside of that, there are 34 other supervisory districts that govern the entire New York State. So it is to improve student opportunities and operational efficiencies through shared resources. Now, from the perspective of an educator, a district leader, when you hear shared resources, it immediately makes you kind of consider, what does that mean? Does that mean personnel? Does that mean space? Does that mean material? The language isn't really very clear, but they are looking at possibly modifying the language, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And finally, as I said a moment ago, supervisory districts are BOCES, one of the 37 BOCES across the state, and then looking at supervisory districts shall facilitate cooperation and efficiency among school districts. So with that language in itself, it suggests that the role of a BOCES, the role of a district superintendent, is going to change to some extent. Even though the governing operational aspects of a district superintendent was always in place, they never really executed them.
But BOCES district superintendent.
Yes,
Not
BOCES
a,
district
what
superintendent.
people would normally think is a superintendent like Michelle,
Agreed.
district superintendent, a BOCES superintendent.
So each BOCES has a district superintendent. That's the position that they define. Now, each BOCES has within that position, they do have, even to now, at this particular point, they have regulatory language that gives them some form of oversight over the other districts that they supervise. We believe that it might be taking a step further.
But in the language, in all of the plans, it suggests district superintendent, so I think they can be confusing for people when they are seeing district superintendent and thinking it's.
Yep, absolutely.
To stay clear amongst ourselves in this room, maybe we can call them school
Superintendents. Superintendents
versus
BOCES.
district superintendents.
But
We
I think
can
people
do
need to be aware that in the plan, it says district superintendent,
It's confusing.
and that
It is
means BOCES superintendent.
Yes. So we're going to talk about in a moment the role of the superintendent, the role of the district BOCES superintendent, not the local superintendent. Like right now, we're a local district governed by our local superintendent and board of education. So in terms of the plan development, it is to develop a plan every 10 years. So we're going to talk about the timeline, but I wanted to give the audience an idea of what the plan development is going to contain. So I'm going to just really read the both sections. So it is the BOCES, district superintendent / BOCES superintendent, will facilitate a strengthened needs to, on a form prescribed by the commissioner. That already came out. We had a deadline initially of November 1st. They changed the deadline to December 13th, which is where it is now. But that is, and I'm going to review that in a moment, but that is a very extensive document in terms of data collection and data that you have to input into that plan and submit it to state. The second component is convening with school districts and stakeholders. The third is an interim progress report of a form, on a form prescribed by the commissioner. And finally, the regionalization plan on a form prescribed by the commissioner. Those are the 4 steps that we would have to follow when we create a regionalization plan that will be consistent to the Eastern Suffolk BOCES District Superintendent's Plan as it relates to the other component districts. Now, the role of the superintendent. The role of the district BOCES superintendent. So the district superintendent or BOCES superintendent shall serve as the representative of the commissioner, which he or she always has. So that language hasn't really changed in state regulatory language. For a sole supervisory district, they are responsible for overseeing the BOCES and the component school districts of supervisory districts. That's us. We're one of the districts within a supervisory district. This role includes, but is not limited to, overseeing the development and implementation of regionalization plans pursuant to subpart 124-2 of this part, providing services for and facilitating collaboration among component school districts, carrying out duties and responsibilities as directed by the commissioner, reporting to and attending all board meetings and acting as a primary liaison between the department and the BOCES. The department being the New York State Education.
So what you're trying to say is, I'm gonna say she.
Okay.
So we have a board meeting, she would come to.
No. So what would happen is that what they're thinking of doing is every component school district, every superintendent of that component school district would have to go to regional meetings, convening meetings periodically to discuss the development of the regionalization plan and the implementation.
But we don't know this for sure, because there's nothing, like, there's not really many specifics on
No,
that.
there aren't.
It's very vague.
It is very.
Every
So-
school has their own, and every district within the governing, the 37 districts has their own regionalization plan.
Yes,
Or the
yes,
BOCES plan.
yes.
Districts have
So-
BOCES and one regionalization plan for all the schools in Eastern Suffolk.
yes. So what is going to happen is that there's going to be 37 individual regionalization plans specific to that particular region, based on the needs study assessment that we all filled out and sent out to state ed.
And what does that study look like?
I'm gonna show you this. So,
Ricardo, since we're on the role of the BOCES superintendent, so it says there's oversight responsibility here. There was also mention of investigatory powers.
yes,
And
so,
I believe those have existed before, is that right, Eric?
Yes, the statute governing BOCES superintendents forever has included a provision that they can be tasked to investigate component school district for any matter by the Commissioner of Education. So the investigatory powers of BOCES superintendent very rarely exercises a lot of powers of BOCES superintendents. Do exist on paper, and as such, the regulation can establish a new power as a delegation from that prior power.
But what I believe I read in the plan was that, they can go into school districts and check to make sure that you are in compliance with that, regionalization plan.
and the plan does say that. The plan does state that. Not only are they charged with helping design and implement the plan, but they're also charged with oversight in terms of going to a district and ensuring that that district is in compliance with the component of the plan specific to your district. So they will be charged.
Your district, which is the entire Eastern Suffolk BOCES.
Yeah, but there's other components. So the way the plan is going to work, the way the
Well, we
state,
don't know.
we don't know, the way the state has speculated or stated that it is going to work is that each district will have a portion of the plan that they would have to implement. And the role of the BOCE superintendent will be to ensure compliance that the district is implementing that plan with fidelity as described within the regionalization plan itself.
But that's what they stated, but it's
That is
different than what is in writing.
It is true.
It's
That is
different
correct.
than what is in the regulations on the New York State website.
That is
It's
correct.
very different than what is being stated in the webinars and, the conventions and things.
Very
like
true. Yes.
What is stated about that?
So right now, since this has come to come into focus, many school superintendents, as well as boards of education, as well as independent lobbying groups, are looking at a lot of things, and we're going to review that in a moment. But they are looking at the legitimacy of creating this emergency action.
Yeah, so it's
Because
what's the
it's-
emergency?
But that becomes the question.
Yeah.
So when we've had like emergency regulation, the last one we had was COVID, which obviously it was a global pandemic. The need to create emergency regulations as to how we are going to address it as a field and how we are going to continue the educational system was necessary and absolutely warranted. So the question begs as to whether or not this falls into that emergency regulatory need.
In
So
the
that's
webinar, they said the emergency was timing.
timing, but they raised a few things, inequity in education, fiscal difficulties that they're having right now, and I'm gonna talk about that now. So these are the 5 steps that we have to complete to have a regionalization plan developed. The first part is to complete the strengths and needs to, can you put that up now? I don't know if I can. The first one. So this is actually the strengths and needs tools that we have to develop, that we had to develop and we did. So now just stick to the table of contents, please. So some of the things that they're asking for us to complete is academic domain in terms of student performance, post-secondary pathways, academic courses and programs. These are all, a lot of the material we have available. We know exactly what we're running at a high school, at a middle school. So some of this is easy to implement or easy to load into the survey and send it up to state ed. The other part in terms of social and cultural domain, can you move down just a little bit, please? Student attendance and engagement, once again, that. Electives, extracurricular activities, and community service. Extracurricular activities, we actually had to identify all the sports teams that we run, all the clubs we run. And then looking at that for the way you look at the plan, the way we interpret the plan, is to determine whether or not there are opportunities in some districts that are not available in others. And we all know that there are. And we all know that there are natural inequities that might exist within a region or within a school district. But then looking at ways to try to spread, from my interpretation, looking at ways to try to spread the resources to ensure that those opportunities are available to more students. That they would.
Are we allowed to look at other districts' document to see for ourselves how we weigh in these criteria?
That's not available. This is just a template. So this is available on the state website. This takes you to all of the elements as to what the survey is asking for.
Okay.
And so the other piece that they're looking at is technology, transportation, how do you manage that, your facilities, your budget, your financing. Move down just a little more, please. And that's really the bulk of the survey, but it's a lot of details. And once again, you could go back to the presentation. So I wanted to give the audience an understanding of what they're asking for. So like I said, the due date is now December 6th. They did change it because a lot of districts did communicate with state ed and said, you're not really giving us a lot of time. We don't have the personnel, we don't have the resources to pull this together. So they did change it to December 6th recently because of the complaints and some of the concerns that were expressed to state education department, by districts. The second step is to participate in regional meetings. That is supposedly beginning November 1st. I haven't yet to receive an invitation regarding this regional meeting, but they ought to begin now, and they might be putting off that timeline because of December 6th. Strength and needs to, they pushed that date back, so this might be a little off for them. The step 3 is the interim progress report due to state ed. That is due April 1st, 2025. They haven't changed that. That means that we have to have a preliminary plan sent to state ed in terms of what we plan to do in the development of the regionalization plan. Step 4 is the final regionalization plan is due to SED. That is October 1st. And the plan has to go into effect September of 2026.
What is the January of this coming year?
That's for the regulations itself. So when they first introduced the regulations to the Board of Regents, they have a 60-day commentary process.
That
So,
is December 15th.
Yes, that ends it. But they did push it back to January now because we do have, the Board of Regents is comprised of 17 regions. So our particular individual that represents our region is Regent Roger Tillis. Recently, I actually received notification today that he has requested that the Board of Regents suspend or push forward or push behind their deadline. So they agreed to do that to look at the language of the regulation to possibly revise it to address some of the concerns coming from the field. How are they going to revise it? We don't know. But that is something that is a decision that came up actually today.
Yeah, so not to implement the regulations in January, because normally they were
Yes,
supposed to be
that is correct.
introduced already in
Yes.
January.
So they're taking a look at the regulations and determining whether or not they want to modify, whether or not they want to change it based on the concerns.
When you say names, do you mean Eastern Suffolk BOCES will be filling out the progress reports, or each district within Eastern Suffolk BOCES fill out the progress reports? That's in terms of
So the way the plan would work is that we would come together as a regional district, as
one of the
Eastern,
37.
yes, one of the 37, and we will create a plan that the BOCES superintendents will facilitate the creation of that plan. And we would identify across all the districts what our strengths, what our weaknesses, and how can we maybe collaborate to utilize the resources that we have available to better the educational opportunity of all students within that region.
One plan for.
One plan.
Instead of each of the plan.
No, it's one plan.
Covering all-
It will mostly have implications
Right.
for all of the districts that are associated with Eastern Suffolk BOCES, and you may have one component attached to that particular plan, or multiple components. We don't know what's going to look like.
This point then, or did their part in terms of filling out the strengths and needs component to the state?
Yes,
That was it.
yes.
Ricardo, how many school districts are in Eastern Suffolk BOCES?
There's 124 across Long Island, I believe, about 34.
So essentially, the way I'm envisioning this is 34 school superintendents meet with the BOCES superintendent, and in 4 months, we're gonna hash out the plan.
That's the point.
And do I also understand that there's no mandatory commitment for each school district?
Yes.
So St. Mauritius could say, we'd like to share resources with Eastport South Florida. And there's an agreement, we're gonna do this, that, and the other thing. But other districts are not committed to say anything like that. They can say nothing, they can make arrangements with each other. Right? So far, it seems like it's totally flexible. Right?
Yes and no.
Yes, and it's a meet on this.
So let me explain. So what Marcus is referring to is that there's been webinars, and there's been many discussions from representatives from SED, from State Education Department, trying to address some of the concerns that we have, which I have listed here. So what is happening is that they're trying to correct what they describe as misinformation. The problem we face and the difficulty that we have with it is that their explanation of the process doesn't match the regulatory language. That is the problem. So exactly what you said has been communicated, but that language does not exist within the new regulations.
So it's not contradictory, it's just sparse and
It's
vague.
It's sparse, it's not even so much vague, it just doesn't have the same regulatory strength as it would if it existed within the language.
But it does say there's no opt-out.
Yes, you
have to
cannot opt out.
participate.
Districts
So
cannot opt
they're
out.
saying that you don't have to, but then what's in the writing is that you do have to.
Well, you have to participate in something, but what the end result is also not
But
specified.
again, I don't think that's going to be up
Participate
to
is
the district,
part of
I
those.
think it's going to be up to the BOCES district superintendent. That's going to be brought down by the commissioner of education. So we're
But you-
going to have to follow what they are telling us to do, and there's no opting out.
It's our
We
plan.
lose, well,
It-
no, it's the plan of the
it's a plan that was
34
created.
students of the BOCES, all of those 34.
Right, so.
That becomes,
So how does that process work, right? We're not
We
gonna
don't-
go to ESM and say, send us a
We don't-
teacher.
but we don't, that's the piece, we don't know that. So I've been on many calls and many meetings with other superintendents, and that's exactly what they're fearful. They're fearful that other districts will send students because one particular district has a very unique program that only services students in a particular way. So are we going to cross contract, or there's issues regarding transportation, there's issues regarding trust, there's issues regarding safety, there's a lot of issues that come along with this.
So how is this gonna work though? So you've got
We don't-
37, 38 superintendents in a room, you
we
have
don't-
to put on boxing gloves, right?
But that's,
Somehow there has to be a process, a collaborative process where you say, we wanna do this, we wanna work together.
when we all hope that that's going to be the case if they get to the point where we have to create this regionalization plan. But the timing, so these are some of the concerns that we have. So, and these are concerns that have been expressed by other superintendents, Board of Education members, individuals within the field that have looked at the regulatory language and the timing of it. So one is the use of emergency regulatory powers. Like, is this situation aligned with a code? I don't know. I mean, that's up for discussion. That's up for anyone's interpretation. Implementation timeline. Their implementation timeline is 5 months to do exactly everything that I just described in the 5 steps. They're pushing it to happen.
They're pushing under emergencies.
Yes.
They're telling you it
So-
has to happen 5 months.
Which is fine, if it's well defined and we all agree with the goals, it's fine to make these things, because otherwise it takes 10 years.
Yeah, but
We don't wanna wait
you're pulling everyone together that all have different viewpoints, different communities, very unique communities with individual needs and individual perspectives and backgrounds, and you're pulling them all together to try to create one plan that would be, inclusive of all the districts that district BOCES superintendent or that region kind of governs and supervises. So that becomes the problem.
It has to do with the amount of taxes that each community member is paying, and putting, where's that money going now? Is it going to the entire state and it's being distributed to everybody? And, upstate, they might be paying a lot less, and they are paying a lot less in taxes than we are. So then what happens to the property value of a homeowner? Now, because you're not going into a certain school district because you know that area has a great school district and has certain programs that you want, you can get them anywhere in your region or in, wherever. So what is this going to do to the property value of our homes?
I don't know, I mean, one of the
Yeah.
things that they talk about is identifying, shortcomings and resources, right? So you could imagine that we say, look, we need to hire more teachers, we need more professional development, we need more money.
But that
That
goes
doesn't say that we're gonna get it, but.
No, but that goes to the next concern. So some within the field feel that the regionalization plan, the development of it, is linked to the new foundation aid study that is currently being conducted by the Rockefeller Center. That is going to be developed, it's most likely developed now, but it's going to be released to the field hopefully by the end of November. And we'll have recommendations as to how to redo the foundation aid formula. Now, last year, Governor Hochul made suggestions that would have really crippled a lot of districts in terms of funding. where she proposed the option of doing away with something called safe harmons, which means that a district receives the same funding, not less than the funding that they received in state. And so it's a state aid the year before. Obviously, she got pushed back, she abandoned that plan, thankfully, but we don't know what the Rockefeller Center's study will say regarding how foundation aid is going to be redone. So some believe that it's coincidental that these two plans are coming out relatively at the same time, so there's a lot of speculation within the field as to whether or not this was intentional.
The Blue Ribbon Commission.
The Blue Ribbon Commission, in terms of graduation requirements, absolutely. Yep. In terms of graduation requirements, so that's coming out at the same time as well. Where I think that has a lot more legs to it, meaning I believe that that had a lot more time in terms of study, in terms of involving stakeholders, in the conversation to try to come up with different pathways in terms of exit pathways, looking at the legitimacy of Regents examination versus individualized exit criteria that students can follow that might be more indicative of who they are as a person. But that did go through a lot more of an intensive study versus the implementation timeline, which is 5 months. So I'm not, but it could be all, the three of, we believe that they might have some linkage. No?
Oh, I just wanted to kind of know where we stand, like resource-wise and like socioeconomically to the other districts in our region. Like I think I heard a statistic that we're like the 94th district in all of Long Island or something like that. So I don't know if our income level and how that relates to resources, like as we're like thinking through what are the areas that we have deficits that we could use resources, and then thinking of what could be potentially taken away and how would we come to the conclusion of who would share what. Like, for example, like East Mauritius, we've talked for decades about combining with them, right? That's been on the conversation. It's
We
never
conducted
happened.
a larger study about this.
And yeah, and so they don't have tennis courts, for example, so they could leverage that, right? Or they don't have for rapid care services like we have. Their income level's a little bit higher, their academic achievements are a little bit higher. Maybe if you combine that would be beneficial, but there's also a lot of problematic things with this too. And I think they're looking at it as like democratizing education, but are we really just making it more mediocre? And like, it's just so unclear. It's not really
it is,
enough
but there
information
are-
how this will all.
So the conversation did come up regarding merger implications, because when we hear consolidation of resources and services, our mind naturally goes to the possibility of the state trying to get districts, especially smaller districts, to merge. The state has, in conversation, not in writing, has suggested that that's not going to be the case. We had the superintendent had a conference call, had a Zoom meeting with the district superintendent of East and Southern BOCES, and she assured us that they don't have the resources and they do not have an interest in having this supervisory role or in developing merger studies and forcing districts to consider a merger, process. But once again, they're saying that now it still doesn't have the language, the regulatory language teeth within the regulation to kind of enforce it.
Because some schools have shut down on Long Island due to low enrollment, and teachers have been exercised across the island. So maybe combining resources, the only positives I could say is maybe we wouldn't have to exercise more teachers, maybe you could share resources. But I'm concerned with what Lauren is saying, and I agree with that. What is the implications of this for our housing prices and our taxes? And
Sure.
we pay a lot of money in
Of course,
road here,
of course.
and we expect a certain level of education to match in alignment with our
And
taxes.
that is the concern that I think a lot of districts and a lot of superintendents are raising right now, because there are some districts that are very free. I mean, if you're looking at Jericho, you're looking at Syosset,
Right.
are they going to be required to consolidate their resources to other districts, and is it fair to their taxpayers that are probably paying a fortune in taxes, like $25,000, $30,000, $40,000? So that conversation has come up. The other piece that has come up is this notion that one size doesn't fit all. Meaning, is it going to work for certain regions? Because if you look at the New York City system, it is a regionalized system. It's the New York City Department of Education. It's all governed under one leadership. It doesn't have the local autonomy that local districts on Long Island has.
Like upstate is so very different
Yeah,
culturally.
absolutely.
Just, like,
But this is the
economics,
piece that,
jobs.
this is the questions and the concerns that we're raising. The true goals of the plan are not really clearly identified. Because we are interpreting different things, and some of the interpretations, some of the comments that we're hearing from individuals like Marcus and others around the field is that we've heard this, but the language doesn't say that. But individuals from state ed, they had webinars, they put literature, they put memos out to explain their true intent, but like I said, they have not revised the language of the regulation.
When
Which
they
is
were
trouble.
getting to revise it, because that email came through, stated they were gonna.
I sent it to you today.
Yeah.
So that was the request of Regent Tillis to review the regulatory language, and before you adopt it fully, please consider it with the lens of the concerns that are coming from the field, and see if you can change some of the language to explain it, to clarify it, and to possibly maybe allay some of the concerns that exist in the field right now. So that's what they did say that they're going to do that. When I say they, the Board of Regents did put a press release out today that suggests that they are going to look at the language, which I believe that they will. How many modifications, changes, revisions will be made that will directly address some of these concerns? I don't know. We have no way of knowing.
Many districts have written letters of opposition to state ed. I don't know if that's something that you want to consider, if you want to vote on doing that.
So the other few things, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, is the removal of local district autonomy. Once again, if you're on the regionalization plan, you are, as Lauren indicated a moment ago, we can't opt out of the plan. There are suggestions that there will be elements of the plan that we would have to implement, but there are elements that we don't have to implement. But once again, that doesn't have strength within the regulatory language identified in the 124 regulation. So it is suggested, but once again, the language is the language, the law is the law.
I think I saw also on some of the clarifications that the 10-year timeframe is a maximum that you can go without revising the plan. And that at any point you can revise it.
You can. Yeah, well, that's what, once again, that's what they're saying.
Not what's
It's not what is written. So the plan itself is on a 10-year cycle. So the next time we would have to create it is 2034. So every 10 years, we would have to go through this process again and recreate a regionalization plan to address the needs and the shared resources that districts can kind of pull together to support the educational benefits of all students within that region.
Like the BOCES district superintendent would be the one doing that in conjunction with the other superintendents.
We'll be facilitating that conversation and developing the plan and ensuring compliance with the elements of the plan to each school-based superintendent and those that, that person has, oversight. Okay? So, of course, I talked about efforts to consolidate control of resources and absence of input from boards of education. And finally, as Lauren suggested, there have been a lot of letters written to Commissioner Rosa, to the Board of Regents, to Governor Hochul, expressing boards of education and even superintendents this pleasure and disappointment with the way that this plan was rolled out and some of the concerns that I just outlined. So right now, the board has three options that most boards are considering right now. Either you support the plan, which some districts do, you oppose it, and you oppose it in writing. So there is a letter that is going out from the Coalition of Nassau and Suffolk School Board members that school board members can volunteer to be a part of. There is there's another letter by a region of state of superintendents that have gotten together and wrote a letter in opposition to it, or really just kind of questioning and asking for more clarification. And finally, the other option is just to remain neutral and just, not address it.
So, Ricardo, how do these letters fit in with the comment period? Are they linked in any way?
They're part of the comment.
Yeah.
So you could once again write the letter as a board. You could attach yourself to the existing letters, and I did include in your packet. So in your packet, which is the red folder, you do have some of the resources that I discussed. At any time, you could add your name to the letter that is questioning the efforts of New York State Education Department and the regionalization plan. And these are all particular links. I'm not going to go into each one, but the first one is the link to New York State Education Department that just really identifies all of the elements of the process and the plan itself. And there's a Q&A, but once again, you do have to take a look at the language. So
There's also an email that you can ask questions to.
You can.
Yeah.
You can.
We have it.
Yes, and then right now they've been inundated
No, I know.
by questions. You can only imagine the amount of questions. But these are the first two memos that did come out from SED. The first one was from Jeffrey Madison, who's an assistant to the commissioner. That was dated August 29th, and it kind of does really lay out the regionalization plan. And this is where the regulatory language exists. The second memo was the September 26th memo that was sent out once again by Dr. Madison that defines the BOE superintendent's role in the process. And the last one is the webinar that I believe myself, Mr. Kennedy, and Mr. Lansky attended. I'm not sure if anyone else did, but it was run by Dr. Madison and another gentleman, another assistant commissioner of education by the name of Mr. David Frank. And they had a 45-minute presentation, which is there, the presentation is there, and they had a Q&A, not necessarily from the participants of the webinar, because there was about 500 people that participated, and that was only for Nassau Suffolk County. But any questions or comments from the board or audience? Yes, Chris?
So when I see regionalization, I've always been a person that looks at efficiencies and redundancies across all public aspects, right? That other than tax and those things. So to me, the concept of regionalization is a lot of building that. But as typical SED state things do, it gets to be a mess. I guess my short point is, and to Lauren's point as well, is where is the community input to this? We've elected board members to review these kind of things and then present to us, whether it be budgets or clubs, or whether it presents to the community, say, here's what we want. Is the state going out, and is part of this a vote even for community members to say, yes, that makes sense, we want this? Because ultimately it comes back to us, our taxes, again, back to Lauren's point, our home values, where we choose to live, what we choose to, where we choose to put our kids. There is community input that the state is indicating that happen.
In terms of a vote for the community itself?
So it seems to me that this is a pretty significant plan, potential plan that is in place. But it's not something that should be just to the Board of Education. To me, it seems like it should be something the community as a whole should have. I don't know if it's a vote. I don't know if it's a vote. I think ultimately
It falls onto the Board of Regents. So it falls onto the 17 members that will ultimately adopt. Now, there is a commentary period, which is the 60 days, which they extended, that allows the communities that will be directly impacted to address some of the questions or to ask questions, or even to express their opposition to certain aspects of the plan.
But to Marcus's point, we don't know what that plan is.
So what I'm going to invite you to do is take a look at these two memos, and it does lay out the plan. So in addition to that, the second slide that I put the link to the New York State Register, that actually on page 5 and 6 it actually outlines the regulatory language that is going to define the regionalization.
Gotcha. Because it feels like you guys will put a significant amount of work into this.
This is a lot, this
And
is a lot.
to me, I also kind of think of, well, what is that taking time away from? We have a small district, a small group of people that runs things. Is this time well spent by our group of administrators and board of education groups?
Sure.
Is it time well spent?
And that's been a comment and that's been a concern. Now, if it was a collection of data that was that would be used to inform the foundation data process and how to better service districts, I think it might be a useful tool for the state education department to utilize and to kind of inform our practice. But it doesn't suggest that that's what's happening. There's so many questions we have, Rich, in terms of why was this developed, the expedited timeline that they implemented. It's 5 months. It's 5 months. It's just, this is what it is. Have this in place by April 1st. We have to have a preliminary plan by October of 2025. A few months later, that plan has to be sent to SED, and the full plan has to be implemented the following September.
Is this the first time this effort is happening?
To this degree, yes.
Obviously,
you would, so the emergency regulations came out through COVID, obviously, where we had to do that. The other one that,
That's a lot of emergency, APPR was.
yeah, APPR was another one, yes.
They use it.
They do.
But as it has been in such a in-depth detail of input.
APPR was really a dramatic change.
This is a teacher evaluation system.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the annual performance review process that we use for not only teachers, but for administrators as well. So it governs everything.
I'm empathetic to the time that this is taking for a district to do, but on the positive, when you're looking at efficiencies, it would be helpful for me as a board member to see that exercise anyway, to have like one document that outlines all the stuff that we have just in general outside of this whole thing, right? So
And we provided it.
yeah, no, I mean, I think it's super helpful for me to see it all there in one spot. And I wish that we could see what other districts have as well, so when we're looking at efficiencies being.
I mean, I'm sure that information is quotable,
Yeah.
but it's not something that we're all looking at. I mean, I think for the most part, we have a pretty similar idea as to what is being offered, because we do communicate. The field of Long Island is a very small field.
So is our plan published at our meeting, our response to this?
No.
I mean, this is not just a waste of time. We don't know because they haven't said.
We don't.
Why would they collect the data if they're just gonna sue them?
Yeah,
No, I think
I supervisory.
I definitely don't think the plan is just to say, I think the plan is an acronym.
Right.
But the plan is an acronym in ways that we don't really know. I mean, they talk about consolidating resources and sharing resources. What does that mean? We don't know.
Right, but I had a question, when we talk about the emergency,
Regulations.
right, so those regulations, I know there have been complaints whether or not it's appropriate, but I had a question from legal counsel, if we could. Regarding, is this on shaky legal ground at all, or is this completely within the state's authority as they're going about it?
We have
Did you hear the question? I'm sorry. So the question is, in this particular regulatory language in association with regionalization plan, is it legally based? Are they on shaky ground? Is it something that they have the right to?
The regionalization?
Yes. I know that's
It's a loaded question.
It is. I know that.
I will start out by saying I have not researched it thoroughly, whether there is a basis of law. The purpose of a regulation can't establish a new law, right? It's a general premise. A regulation is always derived from statutes. So as I mentioned earlier, with the BOE Superintendent's Investigatory Authority, that's proper for a regulation because it's already encompassed in statute. Whether out of the thousands of statutes in New York State, there is some authority that could be seen as delegating this. That's a possibility. I haven't explored it, but it's unusual to see this level of involvement through a regulation rather than a statute. But that's probably the most I can say on that in terms of the permissibility of it.
And the fact that it's being done through emergency regulation, is that at all questionable, or it's?
I mean, I think it, and they're authorized to, promulgate emergency regulations, and they provided a for doing so that they believe to be legal. I haven't analyzed whether there is or not. I know there's questions been raised by certain school districts as to its legality. But generally, doing it through an emergency process, if they meet the emergency process guidelines, is not, impermissible. They still take a final vote on it and put it in permanent effect rather than emergency effect. And that's the cure if it wasn't promulgated properly. Understand?
And when would that vote, that normal approval?
I think it's January, there's a January.
Yep. So, 2 months or so?
So the purpose of the regulation, we have a process, a regulatory process that we normally follow, where the regulations are posted online. There's at least a 60-day comment period, and all stakeholders can comment, submit comments. It's the body that has promulgated the proposed regulation reviews those comments, it's supposed to take them into account and provide feedback on them. And sometimes those ultimate regulations change, sometimes they don't, they decide how to go forward. But that's the purpose of that process for establishing regulations. When they do it through an emergency procedure, they don't get stakeholder input, they put it into effect on a temporary basis, then get the input, and then they can make changes, finalize it as is, withdraw it, etc.
Any other questions or comments on the board?
I pretty much opposed it, mainly because the work that was put in was with zero diligence, zero stakeholder communication. And at the end of the day, we don't need to be rushed. If they want to have a conversation with superintendents, they can start there. They can do like a study, they can have a dialogue, they can build a plan with superintendents, because that's who we put in charge of our districts. So for me, it's not because I disagree with collaboration, it's because of the fact that the rollouts are.
I agree.
I'm disagreeing if we're writing a letter, because we're not really clear, and I have a question still. Are we able to, determine if we want to, share resources? Like, can we say no to things? I read that you could,
That's what they're
so
suggesting.
nobody's gonna force you to give a resource to someone else. That's written down.
Yes, but that's not, once again, that's not part of the regulation. So that is something that they're suggesting, that as they go through the process, they're not going to force districts to partake in aspects of the plan that they're not in agreement with or doesn't have a direct impact or effect to their district. That's what they have said.
Right.
But once again, are they going to review the language and revise it based on Regent Silas's recommendation? I don't know.
I mean, I would be okay with writing a letter that says we want the language to be revised, but I don't want to say I'm for or against something that we're not clear about yet.
I mean, if you look at, once again, if you look at the language itself, the language that we do have, you can take a look at the language and look at aspects of it that you may not be, clearly in favor of. One could be just simply the timing, as to how it was created, as Rich suggested and Brian as well, in terms of the 5-month expedited timing. So for something to this level, you would think that you would afford a significant amount of time, multiple various stakeholder input, and various revisions of the plan to make a determination as to not it's going to really impact all of the districts that will be affected by it. Of course, New York State, because this is not just Long Island. This is upstate New York. The major 5 districts are exempt. So Buffalo, Yonkers, New York City, they're exempt because they do sort of operate in a regionalization plan that exists within their own frameworks already. So the necessity to do that isn't absolute. But for us, we don't. We do have, of course, Long Island, 124 independent districts.
Right, that's my point, looking at, there are a lot of places that efficiency can be had.
Absolutely.
A lot of redundancies. Those are tremendous pros and cons to do all. Of course, whether it be schools, fire departments, police, there's a lot. It's not one Suffolk County school district isn't the answer. but maybe it's like, as you maybe say, well, maybe it's not, maybe it's just what we are. And you say what it is.
It could be looking at consolidating some, and getting them into the conversation maybe, and inviting them into the conversation instead of mandating the conversation. That's the difference. So we can't opt out.
Keywords, just strategic plan. Where's the strategic plan? Right, that's what it stems down to for myself.
I'd rather see those encourage the school districts within their posting districts to work together.
And that is the
Not
recommendation by
state in this thing of, I get it, because the state's like, we don't mandate, you know who's gonna do it, which, not entirely wrong sometimes, you know.
But you can incentivize it. You can incentivize it, you could look at ways of doing it, ways of, exactly. Funding streams that would incentivize, exactly, the conversation. That has happened.
In many capacities, the superintendents of schools are working together, special ed directors are working together, the athletic directors are working together. You know, when their numbers are low, they have to look at merging it for sports, right? It's just what it is. If you don't have a special education program, you have to find a program. You know, and that might be BOCES, that might be a local district. You know, bigger districts are capped out, so obviously you wouldn't be able to go into that. You know, but they are doing it in some capacity. I think it's just they're not looking at the bigger picture, and they want more of a microcosm at all. It's unfair to say that they're not doing it right from their lens, because they are. You know, and it's a lot of work to do that, because, you know, we have to approve the contracts when we do the cross contract work, and it does increase transportation costs, and it does increase, it's not like you're saying to us, hey, you're not gonna have to pay this, you're not gonna have to pay this.
That's not clear.
You know, and I never signed for to go buy a new car with unclear,
Yeah.
So I think that's the genesis of what needs to be fixed, and, you know, these conversations, like, you know, Dawn mentioned, they can be tremendous, but, you know, let the local people do what they gotta do so that we can build it the right way.
And I think that's what a lot of people are pushing. Even to stop the adoption, postpone it, engage in conversations, and then maybe revisit it in a different form. Not in its proposed form that doesn't allow for some of the things that we talk about, some of the concerns that we have. So, all right, so maybe Glenn, if we could work together, maybe we get something that the board would be agreeable with, that would speak to some of the concerns that you all have. Send it out.
Yeah, I mean, we will have to look at the language and make sure that all.
Of course, like I said, the links that you have, will take you directly to the language, and will take you to the resources that were created by SCD that try to clarify the language, but, you know,
Yeah,
once
I mean,
again.
mainly I think it's just we need more clarity, and I think the timeline is tight.
Very good. All right, any other questions? Yeah, I will make it available online. Yes, absolutely, with all the links as well.
All right, so I can't
Oh,
really
sorry.
oppose something that I don't understand. I think
Exactly.
that's what we're all coming to.
Yes.
And, I think we don't know what the state's doing because we're not up there.
Sure.
But it looks like, if I had to guess, I would say they've purposely made this vague. One, because they're moving fast and they haven't had time to really think about it. Two, they want the regions to come up with a plan and not have to do the work themselves. So if they say, you know, if they give us a menu and say, pick one of these and regionalize and go and run with it, then they've already given us, you know, restricted our thinking some. So that's I think part of the reasons why it's vague. And I think, you know, if I'm going to provide input in the form of a letter, what I'd like to see is give us a little bit more of an idea of what this is. Give us some examples. Give us some goals of what the regionalization plan exactly is supposed to do between districts and within the region, and give people a better understanding. Right? So, and I think once we do that, and once the state gets enough input, my hope is that they'll figure out the timelines that are realistic. And we're already seeing that, right? Yeah, they push back the comment period.
And maybe put in some concerns that what we don't want in this letter, sorry.
No, that's fine. We're gonna go back and forth
Yeah.
with this letter, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
which is fine. We're exercising our autonomy. I don't know that we're gonna sign on to one of the existing letters. Or maybe we won't. but there's gonna be some back and forth, and we'll come up with a.
And then that might just be a concern too, in terms of the lack of clarity that currently exists, and maybe finding a way to have SED clarity before it goes forward. But that would still be to suspend the current time. So, any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Thank you.
Questions and comments regarding tonight's agenda only? Anybody? Donations? Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the following donations. Donation of athletic equipment, supplies, and speed training devices to the athletic department from Jersey Code, valued at approximately $1,000. Motion?
Motion. Second.
Discussion?
Definitely want to thank Jeremy. Yes, thank you for donating. Every donation counts. And Jeremy in the past has been very good with donating material for our sports program or other programs that we have in the district. So Jeremy, thank you for continuing to support our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Approval of all consent agenda items as presented from 8A to 13B. Be it resolved, motion to approve the consent agenda 8A to 13B. Be it motion?
Motion.
Second? Second. Discussion?
I'd like to say something about, we have a professional in our district that is retiring after 17 years, Patricia Horace. I just want to say a couple things about her so that we could just keep her in our minds right now. She is retiring effective December 20th of this year. She came to us from East Mauritius School District. She works as a one-to-one aide in our special needs program. So like I said, she came to us in 2017, so she served about 17 years with us. She is someone that is known to be very affectionate with students, has a great relationship with her colleagues, is someone that we are going to really, really miss with our program. And when we find someone as a participant and Ross that works with our special needs population, it's someone that we really want to hold. We really do. I didn't expect that. Okay. But it is someone that sometimes they do the work because they love the work. They love the game. So Patricia will be sorely missed. We wish her the best in her retirement, and it's definitely going to be very difficult to find a replacement. But thank you for your service.
Congratulations, Patricia. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. That brings us to general public comment. There's a 3-minute time limit for participants. Members of the public who desire to address or question the board on any topic related to board work are welcome to do so at this time. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to not more than 3 minutes. To appoint a spokesperson if the concern is a concern, and to supplement verbal certification with written reports if necessary or desired. All right, that brings us to informational items. The next Board of Education meeting is Wednesday, November 20th, approximately 7 p.m. here in the district office. And also we have our Community Connections Committee meeting on Wednesday, November 13th here. All are welcome to attend. That begins at 6 p.m.
And if I could say one thing, it is going to be a joint meeting with PTO.
Yes.
So that's a great opportunity for us to build that community connection with another community agency that works directly for our kids. Myself and Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Markey attended the last meeting, and they decided to have a joint meeting with us. So we're excited to have that, and I believe our attendance is going to be great on the 13th. So anyone in terms of this particular committee or committees, you're welcome to attend. So please look at our calendar. If you have an interest, you have questions, please come and present it to us. All right? Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Yes. Yes. Thank you, everybody, for coming.